welcome to Backstage Pass Instructional Video. My name is Bouillet and I'm here to get you that next step further in your playing. Today we're going to break down the fretboard into three basic groups. The first one being the modes, the second one being pentatonics and the blues scale, and the third one being arpeggios. When we're finished with the whole thing, we should have a really good understanding of how some basic and not so basic ideas function in soloing. So let's get right to it. All right, here we are. This is my equipment where I get most of my sound from. I want to discuss just a few things briefly about some of the rack effects and some of the other things that I use. First of all, right here, this is my main rack where I get my distortion and some of my reverb settings at. I use an 88 preamp, and I have it set up so there's a couple different distortion settings. And I also have the Ibanez reverb, which I like a whole bunch, and it's MIDI together, which is real important nowadays, just because it's, you know, all the stuff that's MIDI, it makes it real convenient for live and for studio too. I also, over here, I have another rack that I use the EQ to get a lot of just to EQ the whole overall, the sound, and I use a depth 5 for a lot of my reverbs and chorusing and delays more than reverb probably. And I run everything through a hush. And it's all basically, you know, so it just quiets it down. This down here is my pedal board, and I just have it set for a rhythm with chorus, a loud button, a rhythm without chorus, and then just a clean channel. And right here, this switches me from tuning to playing. So that's my basic sound. I usually live, I run 9 412 cabinets. And today I have 2 in here, so there we have it. Okay, let's get into some more of the learning process now. I want to cover the modes first, but before we do that, we're going to have to get tuned up. So let's get tuned. I'm going to start from a high E to a low E, and here's your first pitch. All right, probably one of the single most important things to learn in playing guitar is the modes and the way they work in music. I've got a chart I've made, and taking a look at it, we see we have C major and A natural minor mapped out from root to octave. In this chart, you can see that it shows the degrees of the modes and where their qualities and where they fall. One thing that you may have already noticed is the mode, and the quality of the mode is consistent throughout the key. It's real important to understand that all the modes in the key use the same notes. For example, AEOLIAN uses A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and back to A, whereas DORIAN uses D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and back to D. All right, knowing that and understanding that is very important. So I would look at the charts and make sure you understand that. Here's another chart for an example key that shows G major and E minor. Okay, one thing that I would recommend is for you to make your own charts for all the keys. It can't hurt you. It's only going to take a little bit of writing, so I would definitely recommend that and study it. I mean, not all playing guitar is just physical playing. A lot of times you have to use your head and think about how a lot of this stuff works. So let's look at some mode positions and go ahead and start playing them. Our first one's going to start at the 5th fret, and this is going to be AEOLIAN, or natural minor. And it goes like this. Our next position is going to be B LYDIAN. It starts at the 7th fret and It's like this. As you can see so far, we've been using those same notes. So make sure that you're really getting a good understanding and seeing how this works. We're just starting on another degree of the scale. For instance, B-Locrian, we just started on B and played B to B for our B-Locrian mode. Now, that may be a little bit dissonant sounding to some of you, but once you start seeing how it works, you'll really start understanding and hearing how that really sounds good. Let's move on. Our next position is C major, C Ionian, and it starts at the 8th fret, and it goes like this. Next position is D Dorian, starting on the 10th fret. Here it is. Moving right along to E Phrygian, starting at the 12th fret. Okay, here we go, up to F Lydian, starting on F at the 13th fret. It's going to go like this. And our final mode, MIXOLYDIAN, starts at the 15th fret on a G, and this is what it sounds like. Now that you have these positions down, or at least you've went through them and seen all the different positions and how they connect, the first thing to do is go through and find similar mode versions in smaller forms. Say, for instance, we're in AEOLIAN. Well, we know we can play it at the 5th fret, but you don't want to limit yourself just to that. You're going to have to find all the positions around the neck, because if I'm in a position right here, I don't want to have to always shift this, and I may not want that low of register of A natural minor. So, for instance, maybe you could go to the 14th fret. Here's an A, and play AEOLIAN right here. And there's all positions for this. You could play it at the 19th fret. An octave down, starting on the 7th fret. Using open strings. The thing I'm trying to get across here is that you should not limit yourself at all just to one position. You may be playing along and you come to your 6th chord and go, I want to play F Lydian. Well, and if this is the only F Lydian you know, it's going to get kind of monotonous if it's a progression going over and over and you keep going right back to that same F Lydian scale. There's only going to be so many ideas you can really produce from that. So it's good to know them all over the neck. And like I said, also, when you're playing in a position, if I was going from A minor the 6th chord F major, and I was around the 9th position or in between this area, I may be playing over the A, then go to the F, so you can see how valuable the modes really are. The first thing I would do is take 1 or 2 keys, maybe A minor and E minor. Learn them inside and out, upside down, everything. Get all the large positions, the smaller positions of the modes for each degree of the mode for the whole key. Know it so well that you don't even have to look at your neck when you're playing it. And the next thing I do when I was practicing this, since these scales are lined up 3-note per string, you can get a lot of speed out of them because your synchronicity between the 2 hands is going to build very quick because you're doing the same patterns over and over. So I also recommend getting a metronome or a drum machine or something that keeps time that you can play these with, and you can see how fast it builds up because you're seeing the progression each time you play with it. You can see how much further up you've moved on your metronome or drum machine. And with that in mind, you can start practicing on those, and let's move on. Okay, now that we know these positions of the modes, one thing that you want to do is start going through the neck and finding smaller positions. Pentatonic scales is one of my favorites because it breaks up the monotony of playing just a regular major or minor scale. And it also phrases real well because of a lot of the two-note per string patterns. The pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale, pent, 5-note. And it's made up of 5 notes, so it sounds sort of like this. And there's 5 positions we're going to be discussing. And the first one looks like this, starting at the 5th fret. Okay. Moving right along, we have our second position, which starts to the 8th fret. It looks like this. Okay. Our next position is going to start at the 10th fret, and it goes something like this. Two more to go. Our next one starts at the 12th fret, and it looks like this. All right, and our very last one starts at the 15th fret, and here it is. Then after that, you just repeat. You start with your first position again at an octave higher. Now that we've seen some basic pentatonic scales and went through all the positions, let's try a simple alteration to give it a completely different sound. And what we're going to do is raise the minor third to a major third, which would be a C to a C sharp, which gives us a more dominant sounding type of, pentatonic scale. So let's go through these positions and check them out. The first one starts at the 5th fret, and it goes like this. Our second position starts at the 9th fret, and it goes like this. All right, our next position is going to start at the 10th fret, and let's take a look at this. The next position will be starting at the 12th fret, and here we go. And our last position is going to start at the 15th fret, and it's going to go something like this. So let's try listening to this over a chord or a tonality. Let's move these positions to E dominant, and I'm gonna have an E dominant chord playing in the background, and I'm just gonna noodle around with it and give you an idea of how this sounds over a chord. final scale we're going to cover in this section is the blues scale. It's real similar to the minor pentatonic, except for it's a 6-note scale. And we're going to add the flat 5 to the minor pentatonic shape, which would sound like... And the name pretty much says it all. It sounds real bluesy. So there's 5 positions of this. The first position is going to go like this, starting at the 5th fret. Our second position is going to start at the 8th fret, and it's going to go like this. Our third position, starting at the 10th fret, is like this. Our last two, our fourth position is starting at the 12th fret, and here it is. And our final position starts at the 15th fret, and here it is. Then you would just repeat like the others to the octave of the scale, which would be our first position played up an octave. So let's take the pentatonics we know, the major minor pentatonic, the 5-note one, the pentatonic with a raised third, which is a dominant sounding pentatonic, and the blues scale. And I'm just going to hit an E chord, and I'm going to mix them up, and you can hear kind of the tonality you get from combining all 3 of them together. These will be in E. Ready? And that's basically just combining the three scales together. I have my altered pentatonic with a raised third, and combine my minor pentatonic with it, the minor third to the major third, and the flat 5. And it can sound real bluesy, or you can put it in a more rock context. Many players throughout the rock and roll history have used this scale countlessly. Eddie Van Halen to Yngwie Malmsteen, to everybody has really touched on this some way or another. As far as blues players and actually jazz players alike too. What I would do is go through and learn all those shapes, and then each position, see how each shape compares to each other. For instance, when I was playing here at the 12th fret, the first minor pentatonic, then the raised, the altered one, and then the blues scale. So I would recommend maybe a progression. A lot of times on this, a good one to start off with is a 1-4-5, which is a typical blues progression. And try soloing over it with these scales. And then try doing it over a more, what you're gearing your music for. Maybe a more rock-oriented rhythm or something, and see how they fit in there. A lot of times you won't want to play the altered pentatonic because it's more of a majory dominant sounding happy sound as compared to a minor, which is more just more heavy rock sounding, not really uplifting sounding, but just more minory, sad sounding almost. All right, we're ready for arpeggios, one of my favorite improvising tools and all-around fun things to play. Basically, arpeggios are the notes of a chord played separately. For example, if I was to play a A major chord, and I took those same notes and played them separately, starting with an A, a C sharp, an E, and then back to an A, C sharp, and an E, I would have played an arpeggio. It's the difference between just hitting a chord and playing the notes separately. There's quite a few different arpeggio shapes, and the first ones I want to dive right into would be triad shapes. What I mean by that is, if we have a chord, say for instance A major, we're going to be using the root, the third, and the fifth to make these arpeggios. And actually that's what makes the chord too. If you look at it, we'd have a root, a fifth, a root, a third, a fifth, and a root. So what we're going to do is we're going to play root, third, fifth in order and in a position to the highest chord tone we can grab with our hand. All right, starting with our first 4 triad shapes, we're going to go in and do major triad shapes, which will start with A, and we're going to start at the 5th fret, and our first shape goes like this. And before we go any further, a lot of you may be wondering how I'm picking these, and with arpeggios it's real important. I take it for granted that a lot of people know that all the scales and stuff like that you should alternate pick for good technique, but this is kind of a more recent idea is to play with as many downstrokes or upstrokes in a row. So just a real easy rule to remember is if you're starting with 2 notes on a string, 2 notes per string for your starting, you want to start with an upstroke and then down to lead into the rest of your notes because you're getting more downs in a row. If you were to start with a downstroke for your first note, you'd have a down, up, down. So you almost do an alternate there. You want to get as many ups or downs in a row. So that would pretty much come out like this. And it's real easy. You can play these arpeggios, a lot faster doing that way. I mean, trying to alternate pick that would be fairly impossible. Although I've seen it done, but not as well as this technique works. Okay, moving on to our next shape or position of major triads. We're going to start at the 9th fret on the E string, and this is going to be starting on the 3rd of the chord tone, the major 3rd from A, which is C sharp, and it's going to look like this. Okay, moving on to our next position, we're going to go from the 12th fret to the 17th fret, and it looks just like this. The last shape we're going to show borrows a whole lot from the last position, and the only difference is that it requires a little bit different hand shift, and we're also going to be starting on the fifth degree of the arpeggio, and we're going to the high root at the 17th fret. So we're starting from the 12th fret to the 17th fret, which would be the 5th to the root, and it's going to go like this. Now, one thing to think about in that one is it's got a little bit more difficult switch right in here, position shift of your hand. So maybe try practicing just the shift. Or ascending with it. How I'm practicing that over and over so you get the shift a little bit smoother. All right, so we have the major triad arpeggios. The next thing we should do is just get the minor triads, which is real easy by just lowering the major third to a minor third. So what we're going to do is take those exact shapes, and all the shapes we're going to take the major third, which is a C sharp, and lower it a half step to C, which will make these all minor triad arpeggios. And our first position is going to start at the 5th fret, and it goes like this. Okay, our next position is going to start on the 3rd degree of the scale, and it's going to be the minor third, and we're going to go up to a high 5th, and it's going to sound like this. Okay, and our 3rd position is starting at the 12th fret, and it's just going from root to root, and it sounds really great, so here it is. And our last one, as before in the major triad arpeggios, this one borrows a lot from the same position we just played, but we're going to start on the 5th degree of the arpeggio and go up to the high root, which will be starting at the 12th fret to the 17th fret. And it has the same sort of hand shift, but just a little bit different because we have the lower thirds, so it goes like this. Okay, and I would practice this shift, just practicing going descending and ascending right in the hard spot of it. Or ascending. All right, let's move on to some 7th type arpeggios, which means we'll be using the root, the 3rd degree, the 5th degree, and the 7th degree to make these arpeggios. For an example, let's take a look at A dominant 7th chord, which means we're using and we're going to take the notes out of that chord and play a dominant 7th arpeggio. It means we're using the root, 3rd degree, 5th degree, and the 7th degree. Okay, let's start off with our first position of this, which I already just played, but we'll play it slow once. And it goes like this. These are A dominant 7th arpeggios. Okay, our next position is going to start at the 9th fret, and it goes like this. Our next position still starts at the 9th fret, but it goes up a little bit higher. It's actually another position, and I like this position a lot. That's one reason why I'm showing it. So let's start with it at the 9th fret. Okay, 2 more to go. Our next one is going to start at the 12th fret, and it goes like this. our last shape is going to look like this. It's going to start at the 15th fret, and here it is. Okay, next let's move on to some minor 7 flat 5 arpeggios. And I really like the sound of these a whole bunch, and as you'll learn further on down the line how we're going to use them over a different qualities of chords. So let's go ahead and get to positions, and the first one goes like this. Tone. Okay, the next shape is going to start at the 7th or 8th fret, excuse me, and it's going to go like this. All right. Continuing on, here's our next position starting at the 11th fret. And take notice all along as we're going to this how we're starting on the chord tones each time. This is going to be the flat 5 degree of A minor. So here we go. Okay, moving on to our last position. It's going to start at the 15th fret, and this is what it looks like. And then, just like we've done previously, we repeated the octave. And another thing I like to bring up is like, say for instance, that arpeggio shape, we could take it down the octave here and play the exact same shape. If you want to know all the positions of the neck, just not from the 5th fret up, you definitely want to get every position, which includes down here too. Let's outline the modes now with the arpeggios we've just learned. Putting the chart back up on the screen, we can see that each mode degree has a quality. For instance, AEOLIAN is minor, B Locrian is minor 7 flat 5, C Ionian is major, D DORIAN is minor, etc. What we're going to do is take each mode and put together all the arpeggios of the next. So it's real simple. What we're doing is taking an A minor chord and playing all the arpeggio shapes up the neck. And what you want to do is look where all those notes are, because those are your chord tones, and see where they correspond with the positions of the scale. So I'm playing, say for instance, at the 12th fret, playing A natural minor, or AEOLIAN mode. Well, my corresponding arpeggio shows me the good chord tones to outline that chord. So I can not only play just the scale, but I have all these tones to land on or target for, so I sound good by playing over that chord. So if I was to take, for instance, LYDIAN, which is the major 6th chord in A minor, then I'd have all the major arpeggios up the neck for my chord tones, and I would find the corresponding LYDIAN scales to go along with those arpeggios. So now your thing to do is to go through of each degree of the mode and work this out. It's real simple, take my word for it, and find all the different ways you can incorporate those two things together over the chord. So now we've outlined the modes, with the arpeggios and the scales kind of together, what we want to do real quick is take these same arpeggios and over a chord. We're going to find a chord first, and then what we're going to do is play different arpeggios over a chord. For instance, A minor 7 chord or an A minor chord. We're going to find what other arpeggios in that key are going to fit over that chord. So I've composed a chart, and what I want you to do now is look at the chart and listen to these examples as I play them and hear the tonality and hear what kind of sounds, different sounds these arpeggios create over this one chord. So what you're doing is getting a lot more mileage out of an arpeggio. So take a listen to this. This is a G major. Okay, the next one is going to be an E minor, and it sounds like this. Okay, our next example is a B minor 7 flat 5. Now that's like using the 2-chord arpeggio, but we're going to play it over the root chord. Now check this out, it sounds really good. And if you notice the very beginning jam, I start with this at the beginning of the video. You'll hear me playing this one and a lot of these other ones, so keep that in mind. Ready? Great. Okay, another one is going to be the relative major, which is C major. So let's see how that sounds. Now that you've heard these examples, the thing for you to do is go through that chart, see which arpeggios work over the chord. Try them out. Try making up your own ideas and licks. You don't necessarily only have to play over one chord, just a minor triad arpeggio, for instance. Like if I was in A minor, I'm not just going to play an A minor triad arpeggio. I can play all the other ones we just explained, or I may combine a couple of them. I may combine A minor and C major. Just for starters. An A minor chord, please. One more time. The final thing we have to cover is tying all the information together so we can actually use it in music. We're going to take a progression, the 1-6-7-1 progression in the key of A minor, which means we'll be using the A minor chord to F major, to G major, back to A minor. Now I have a chart, and what I did is put your possibilities to play over the chords, over the changes, all the possibilities to play on that certain chord. So what you need to do is take a recorder, if you have a 4-track, or just even a little small tape deck will work, and record yourself playing this progression. And I recommend playing it slow at first, just so you have more time to think while you're trying to use these ideas. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot from this video, and I'll see you on tour backstage.